Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and we are at the Kentucky Railway Museum, which I think is technically in New Haven, Kentucky. We passed by here. Oh, and by the way, this video is August. We were here late August 2020, just for the record. And we passed by here on our way to Hodgenville to see some of the Abraham Lincoln sites. And this wasn't really on our radar. I mean, I probably had heard about it, but we passed by and we're like, hey, there's a railroad museum. Let's go check that out. Looks like there's a lot of trains. So we stopped by and talked to the people running the place. They were really nice. We didn't have time to go in that particular day, but we came back. We came back a couple weeks later to go through the museum and check things out. I want to say it's maybe $5 just to go through their museum, or for a little bit under $20 a person, you can go through the museum and take an hour-and-a-half train ride. And that's what we ended up doing. So that's what this is from. Wanted to also mention this video. I think I've edited it down some. We were probably there 3 hours this particular day, including the train ride. I've edited this video some, but it's still about an hour-and-a-half long video. And as I've posted videos on YouTube, I found out the longer your video is, the less people want to watch it. So yeah, here's an hour-and-a-half long video. You know, I'm making this hoping there might be some, mature people like myself who enjoy train rides and might actually just enjoy watching. I tilted my camera out the window as we were riding on the train. And that, after we go through the museum, that's almost, minus a few seconds where I stopped the camera and just reshuffled it. That's pretty much the entire train ride back and forth. I hope that makes you want to go down there and buy a ticket to the museum and support them and take one of their train rides. The little museum is small, but it's obviously packed with a ton of stuff. Lots of railroad memorabilia, some toy trains. They've got a train layout. And this is something that back in the mid-00s, my father-in-law passed away, and he was a Methodist preacher, and he worked out of kind of the eastern northern Ohio area. He was, again, a Methodist minister, but he had a train layout, and it was really cool. He was working on it. He had a train, and he had some stuff. We actually bought him some trains for Christmas a couple times, and I was always hoping he would retire at some point, and that he and I could work on an HO scale layout together. I built a couple buildings for him. I've mentioned before I love painting toy soldiers, and I've done some HO scale railroad stuff. I could so get into that again. Mostly the buildings. I don't understand the railroads. They were kind of before my time, but I like HO scale. I like the buildings. I like the kits they've made. And that's something, at some point in my life, I'll probably try to revisit again. I do know when I've been in train shops over the last several years, it seems like they sell a lot more stuff, like, put together. Like, they sell HO buildings that are pre-painted and pre-assembled. And it's the same with toy soldiers. There's a lot of that stuff is sold pre-assembled. And, I was at the bookstore the other day. They had some Dungeons & Dragons miniatures that were pre-painted. And I hate that. That takes the fun out of it, Anyway, but yeah, I do know that they still sell kits and that kind of thing. And hopefully somewhere down the road I might build a small, maybe not even a layout, but just a little city. Just because I like that sort of thing. But yeah, my father-in-law was real into it. He worked on the railroad, actually, before he went into the ministry. And he took a big pay cut at that time. He was a real sincere fella, and I sure miss him. We go through the museum for about 15 minutes or so, and I just wanted to give you a quick intro, and then I'm going to let the train ride kind of play out on its own, let you hear the bells and whistles and all that good stuff. But yeah, this is a non-profit organization, and they've got a lot going on. I believe they even do a dinner train, not right now, of course, with COVID, and there's their layout. It's beautiful. I wish I'd filmed more of it, actually, but This will give you an idea of what's there, and again, hopefully encourage you to go and check things out on your own. Yeah, but they're a non-profit. It looks like they're ran by volunteers. It seemed like it was mostly older men and younger ladies working there the day we were here, and they were all wonderful. On our train, there was kind of a guy running the show, and he was a former military minister himself, and he had stories and was just playing the room and having a good old time. But yeah, this is obviously a labor of love and just something cool in New Haven. And again, this isn't far from all of the great Abraham Lincoln sites in Hodgenville. This could be a nice weekend trip for some people. That's a great area that just doesn't get enough attention. But again, I wanted to read real quick from their brochure just to tell you a little bit about the museum and what they've got going on. And concerning the history of the Kentucky Railway Museum, the Kentucky Railway Museum owes its beginnings to a small group of rail enthusiasts who formed a local chapter of the National Railway Historical Society in 1948. In the early 1950s, the chapter asked the Louisville and Nashville Railroad for the donation of a steam locomotive to form the nucleus of a railway museum. The museum was officially chartered in 1954 with the donation of a steam locomotive, number 152, and 6 acres of leased land on River Road. The public opening was on Memorial Day 1958. With the addition of other donated rail equipment and artifacts, the museum grew with over 200,000 visitors at the River Road site in the first 10 years. The original site was subject to flooding, and the museum required additional space for exhibits. A lease was signed for 40 acres of land near Ormsby Village on LaGrange Road, which would expire in 1993. Meanwhile, a number of museum volunteers with a grant from the Brown Foundation and the National Park Service began restoration of L&N 152. The 13-year labor of love was completed in September 1985 when the engine was moved under its own power after 30 years of retirement. This work, performed by volunteers in an outdoor shop, is one of the best examples of a preserved operating steam locomotive in the country today. A fleet of passenger cars was acquired to operate behind number 152, as well as operating diesel-electric locomotives to operate off-site excursions on the L&N Railroad. The euphoria of a permanent home would not last. In 1993, the Ormsby Village lease would not be renewed by Jefferson County. Once again, the search was on, this time for a purchase site the museum could call home for good. CSX Transportation was considering abandonment of the Lebanon branch of the old L&N. With strong support from the Bingham Foundation and a state economic development grant, the museum purchased 17 miles from just east of Boston to New Hope in LaRue and Nelson counties at the cost of $30,000 per mile. Two brothers in New Haven, Kentucky, donated 6 acres of land and a building for museum headquarters. The permanent facilities was opened July 4, 1990. More than 30,000 individuals visit each year. The museum, a 5,000 square foot replica of the brick L&N New Haven Depot, opened in the summer of 1995. The decision to own its own railroad was a wise one for the museum. The Kentucky Railway Museum, a private nonprofit organization, continues to tell the story of the railroad through interpretation and operation of historic equipment. And then there's some more information about several of the engines that they have. Also, the depot, there's a little note on the depot. In 1862, during the Civil War, the original New Haven depot was burned by John Hunt Morgan and his raiders. In 1881, a new depot was built. It was constructed of brick and tin. The general waiting area was on the north end of the station, with a segregated area for black and whites. The depot stood until the mid-1960s before it was torn down by the railroad. The original depot stood across the tracks from the current depot that was constructed in 1995 and is a replica of the original. So just a ton of history there. Oh, and concerning the boxcar we're looking at there, wanted to read from a sign there about it just to give you some information. The 48 boxcar, not sure if I'm saying that right, was a standard European boxcar made in France and used during World War I and World War II During both wars, the boxcar was used to transport 40 soldiers or 8 mules or horses around Europe. After World War II, the French people donated one car to each state plus one to be shared by the District of Columbia and Hawaii. The boxcars were filled with items of appreciation that may have included crafts, food, art, and gift items. In 1949, the cars were presented to each of the states. The 40 at 8 was given to the Kentucky Railway Museum in 1958. Between 1997 and 2001, the Nelson County Vocational School, located in Bardstown, Kentucky, restored the car to its original state under the supervision of Mr. Chris Verdell. The plaques that are displayed on each side of the boxcar represent the provinces of France. The car was returned to the Kentucky Railway Museum in May of 2001, where it is on display. Funding for the restoration project was provided in part by the Kentucky Order of Colonels and the 48 Society of Elizabethtown. So that's pretty cool. I wanted to read just a little bit more before we get on the train. New Haven and the Civil War. This is from the brochure given out at the station. In December 1862, Confederate General John Hunt Morgan and his men rode north from Tennessee on a Christmas raid to harass the Union troops and to destroy the bridges, supplies, and equipment of the L&N Railroad, which the Southern forces thought was showing favoritism to the Northern Army. Morgan's men moved quickly. By December 28th, they had captured Elizabethtown and burned the trestles near Colesburg. Sounds of cannon fire coming from the direction of Boston incited fear. The 9th Kentucky Confederate Cavalry, 200 men strong, was riding towards New Haven and its defenses at Fort Allen. The well-equipped 78th Illinois Infantry was assigned to defend this fort. Their 69 caliber muskets were much more accurate than the normal carbines and pistols carried by the Confederate troops. New Year's Eve, 1862, began with General Morgan asking for the surrender of the Union's Fort Allen. The Union troops refused. The Confederate States of America forces used their carbines, pistols, and sabers, intending to do a great deal of harm to the community and its defenses. They even added the firepower of a horse-drawn cannon, shooting 12-pound cannonballs as further pressure, but it was poorly aimed. The Union's marksmen were much more accurate. Moving closer, the CSA forces continued to bombard Fort Allen, but their artillery was still off the mark. Many a cannon shot landed in the Rolling Fork River, creating a little damage. The exchange of fire continued for over 45 minutes. Recognizing their lack of success, the Confederate troops withdrew to their original position, with 10 wounded soldiers and 3 dead from the Union firepower. The Union soldiers suffered no casualties and cheered loudly as the battle for New Haven came to an end. I've got some other videos up about that battle, about Morgan and his boys and all of that. Anyway, we're about to leave. I'm gonna just be quiet and let you enjoy the train ride. Thanks a lot.
That other life form called teenagers. This is where I say, do as I say, not as I do. We require the mask to be worn and on.
Okay.
Yeah. So, they were my guests yesterday on a guided tour.
Oh.
Now, the other thing is, if you want to drop your mask for a break or something, make sure I know. If you want to drop your mask for a drink or a snack, feel free.
Okay.
Just so I know what's going on.
Good afternoon, and welcome
Other
to
than
New
that,
Haven,
sit
Kentucky,
back, relax,
the home of
and
the
enjoy your ride.
Kentucky Railway Museum. The
Thank
town of
you.
New Haven was founded in 1838 by Samuel Pottinger. He envisioned this city to be a new shipping and industrial center and named it after his old hometown of New Haven, Connecticut. As we leave New Haven today, we ask that parents with young children
Here's Ken,
please
he's
keep
our
them in their
conductor
seats.
today.
We also remind you that our insurance regulations do not permit smoking while on board the train. The use of alcoholic beverages is prohibited. There are also no restrooms aboard the train.
And Don has spent some time earlier this summer in the hospital
The
with
train you are riding
A whole
today will
laundry
take you
list
through
of
a
stuff.
very beautiful part of central Kentucky known
You were
as
in
the
the
Rolling
hospital.
Fork River Valley.
you were
We
in the
will be
hospital
traveling
with
to
a
the
whole list
northwest
of
through
things
Nelson
wrong with
County
you.
before we arrive in Boston. We are now on the only train that can go from New Haven to Boston in one day and never
Right,
leave the state.
and that's why I'm so
We
glad
will
to see
travel
you
at a
back.
leisure pace of approximately 25 to 28 miles per hour.
Took me a while.
You may
so
notice
I'm
along the
still
ride the
complete.
white posts with black numbers. These are mile posts. The number on the post indicates how many miles we are from Union Station in Louisville.
White House that is now sort of old and dilapidated.
The Lebanon branch is the most historic and the oldest portion of the entire Louisville and Nashville Railroad. The last scheduled passenger train on this branch was in August of 1958.
Niles, see that house back there?
The Kentucky Railway Museum train excursions travel along rails that formerly belonged to the L&N Railroad. In March of 1850, the Kentucky legislature issued a charter to a company that proposed to build a railroad between Louisville, Kentucky and Nashville, Tennessee. This charter allowed for the building of a branch a few miles north of the Rolling Fork River, extending into Lebanon, Kentucky, which you are riding today. By April of 1853, this fledgling company had let a contract for a 185-mile route south from Louisville to Nashville at a cost of roughly $35,000 per mile. That would compare to about $1 million per mile today. In July of 1855, the first rails were laid on the Lebanon branch. By October 1855, the main line from Louisville south to Lebanon Junction was complete. In the spring of 1857, crews began laying the track to New Haven.
Oh, here it is.
The first train arrived in New Haven in July of 1857. By March of 1858, trains were regularly scheduled between Louisville and Lebanon. Once this line was complete, some of the first freight was for the many distilleries that were in the area. Coal, grain, and other materials were hauled to the distilleries, and the finished product, bottled whiskey, was transported to Louisville for shipment on the steamboats up and down the Ohio River. There were at least 14 known distilleries along this branch between Lebanon and Boston. With its track running between Louisville, Kentucky and Nashville, Tennessee, the L&N found itself right in the middle as the Civil War began. At the outset of the Civil War, the main line between Louisville and Nashville comprised the entire L&N Railroad. The Civil War was fought all around New Haven. In July of 1863, General John Hunt Morgan and his raiders burned all the railroad buildings they could find. In September 1865, the depots at New Haven and Bardstown were burned. The L&N paid a heavy price both in men and equipment as it struggled through the war between the states. When the war concluded, the L&N Board of Directors realized just how much this branch could mean to the future success of the railroad. The agricultural interests and the rich eastern Kentucky coal fields held much promise. The tracks were extended, and by 1883, the first train ran between Louisville, Kentucky and Knoxville, Tennessee.
The horses are out, I just saw them.
Oh, you'll love that. Be the horse man.
Right up there.
Yeah. Yeah, over there. You can see it now.
Look at that playground, Niles. That'd be fun, wouldn't it?
There's some pretty homes out in good area.
Yes. Okay, now you get a good look at them.
Niles, see the horses over there? See them back there? See them there? Yeah, there's two. Look at that little pond. It's had a bunch of lilies in it. You know the ones with lilies? Frogs.
And if we were going to have a train robbery today, which we won't. It would happen right here.
That would have been fun. How often do they do that? They do like a train run, like back to the
We'll have 3 more scheduled this year. September 19th, October 24th, and something around November 15th, 19th, something like that.
They act like it's the old days when they stop the train, go to the train. We did that when we were there. Kind of fun, awesome. And I also love that. There's a lot of
Oh,
fun.
don't be surprised if we pass a house and there are people standing out there waving.
Niles, look over here. That's the cows. Is that baby cows? It is. See them over here? Uh-oh, can you see? Right there. Right there. They were running a minute ago. Well, they were running. Well, maybe they were bringing out food and they were hungry. They picked up their pace a little bit. Turtles are very chill. You must be. I know. Yeah, that's for sure.
I was looking for one of our brochures. We'll have to pick one up at the office.
Okay.
But on the inside is a list of our featured rides.
Okay.
The robberies are on the big schedule for September, October, and November.
Okay. I'll bring my other granddaughter. She couldn't come today.
A year or 2 ago, I had my one granddaughter. She wanted to come up for a ride, and it happened to be a robbery. And she and my wife wound up. She wound up helping to babysit.
Okay.
September, October, November dates. I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
This one is completely done, it's X'd out. Thomas is X'd out. The car show will happen. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I've got those two
Is this for those? The wine part, which is the wine?
I'm not sure of the status of that. The October date sold out.
I don't want no break.
The second day, it sold out. Close to the third day, it sold out. And a week.
Okay.
But I don't like the status. Yeah. That, last year was the last first year of this. So well received.
I'm sure, yeah.
Salad.
Thank you. I'll hold on to that.
Yep.
Our drinks. We get to see that side.
some genteel country living. This house right up here, big brick, and a certain amount of ground, I don't know how much, is on the market and it's for sale.
You should buy that thing.
What's that?
I think you should buy it. I'm sure your wife would have it, right?
My wife is content with the property that we've got right now.
Very good. Yeah, I don't know if I'm not that much of a country girl.
Yep, the sign is still up, so they haven't sold it. Hey, Don, go ahead and buy it and move your wife out here.
Yeah, the house is too little for me.
What was it, babe?
It was a big dog.
A big dog? Do you all need a drink of water or anything? Look down there, Niles. Boy, that would be some good fishing. You missed it.
Yeah, he'll hear this.
All of these guys soldiers. It's all good.
What did he say, old man?
It was a big fishing area. No, if we do, let's stake it out. Look down there. You already saw this?
Of course, he's just brand new, so I don't know how much that he's gonna be. He'll handle it.
I think he was here last week, right?
Yeah.
All got to calm down.
Look at all, we needed all that firewood last night, didn't we? You could have had a big fire.
We had those school trips. Man.
Oh, yeah.
Watch out for those Chinese trouble.
Okay, come and watch it.
Okay.
Can I
Yeah.
get a,
He's been good.
Keep your
now,
eyes
look
on
over,
it.
Cece, can I get the picture with the
You
conductor?
just throw it
I
up on
guess
somebody
so.
else.
All right.
I told people back there it'll cost you $20 to get a picture.
Here we go. We're gonna take a picture with the conductor.
All right. Slide down or?
Let's see here. Maybe just a little bit. Look
There you
here.
go.
Awesome. Okay. I was gonna say cheese. We can't even see your face. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Excuse me, sir.
Oh, you're fine.
Doctor.
You're fine. I don't have no reason to go that way.
Huh?
I don't have no reason to go there.
Oh,
There's no food. There's no food in the
back there.
kitchen.
A whole car full of people back there.
Look at the deer.
Oh, gosh.
They just, you just back there, you can't
Did you
see.
see the deer?
I mean, you can't see the chickens either, can you?
I don't know. What's funny is when I'm in the high rail truck, I get up to Bridge 3, whole bunch of turkeys. And they won't get off the track, they'll just keep going.
Turkeys.
2,000.
That's like,
Did run over any?
You guys put out there a Christmas light display.
we have all kinds of
You know, all kinds of stuff on
I don't think anybody bothered to count.
Oh, fair one day.
Uh-oh.
Several hundred thousand.
Buck deer. Right in the middle of the same day I saw the bear.
We come up there.
Yeah, I'd rather all the trains here. I'd walk around here.
And telling him, like, we were talking
That would
about
be
what
nice,
was
yeah.
Mostly Adam.
This is all the,
Take your back that way.
hard stuff. It's like, wow, you're going way back. Yeah, but we've been
There
enjoying
was
it.
another thing that we did last year, we haven't done a fish
Let's
here.
go out there. Well, we've got some big bullies.
Mystery train.
Here in the next night or so, I started watching Thursday. I'm sure it's super.
Starts with dinner at the hotel in New Haven.
It could have been just something like that, yes. The data.
Plane cast comes in and they set the stage for the murder. And then you got a murder mystery that is solved while we're riding. And that's an evening ride.
I think that'd be fun, kind of like playing the pool game.
Okay.
Look, Niles, there's another fishing pond.
We rode the one out of Branson, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
That was a really, whether we got off, the little thing, when they turned the thing around. It was
We're
really
missing
good.
all the fishing holes, aren't we? That old red barn. Look, see, they're running. I told you cows run. I'm running around the corner. Can you see them? See, they're running. I told you they can run. Oh,
They don't
chasing
like
them?
the train.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
The
You
cows
see them,
right
CC?
here, it's a throwback. You just saw the front of the house. 60, 80, 100 years ago. No roads.
See, Steve, we
And
can
this was the railroad. You come out and watch the train going, especially
Yeah. That's interesting. So how many times a day does a train pass in front of their house?
depends on the time. There was a time when this line carried 8 passenger trains a day.
So when the COVID is not around, do you all actually serve dinner in this part here? Oh, okay, yeah.
Runs, but you got a late lunch. It's catered by a fellow out of Bardstown.
That would be neat. That's what we have.
There was a beef something. I didn't like it, beef dips or something like that. What was called roast loin of pork.
That sounds good.
Like about that big of a mouthpiece.
Oh, wow.
Out of the center.
Yeah.
Loin. And pasta primavera. Vegetarian.
It's making me hungry.
Well, we also have a chicken dish of some sort of that. Sometimes you have chicken or vegetarian.
Sounds good.
Oh,
Be
I
glad
did not have any of those.
You had a good time? Good. Well, it must be school.
Everybody I talked to
Enjoyed it.
raved about everything.
Are we getting ready to cross an intersection or something?
You are clear 39.2.
Yeah, we've got a farm, a little road crossing right here.
Maybe the car wait over here.
Actually, what we've got right here is a slow order. And from time to time, we will have them. There'll be something with the traffic that, in order to keep you safe, we slow down.
Okay. We like safety.
Yes. Like I tell people, we will hand off control from one end. That will include brake test.
A brake test.
Right? So you want to go.
Right.
What's better than going?
Stopping.
Stopping when we get back.
Look, Niles, you just crossed over the road.
Kind of full our more than once.
They were waving over here.
Look at the trailer. You like to live out in the woods like that?
I just saw an old house with an old man.
Was anybody living there?
I didn't see anyone.
Now, it will be hard to see, and I haven't brought it yet this summer. In the woods along here, there's what was called the section house. And that was built by the railroad, the kind of house, a section hand. And his job was to control the section track, make sure that it was up to par, or needed repair.
Tucked away in the woods?
That particular house hasn't been inhabited for 50 years or more.
Wow.
That it wouldn't surprise me. In the winter, when the leaves are falling, I can see it. It wouldn't surprise me at all the next time I see it, it will collapse.
Yeah. My granddaughter and I, we've been watching abandoned houses on YouTube videos. So I told her we're gonna have to take a drive way out in the woods and try to find this abandoned house and go exploring.
Gotta be careful.
Oh yeah.
But sometimes there's nothing between you and the dirt, even though there's a floor there.
Yeah.
You're trying to find a
They're
mystery
interested.
gift?
Huh?
Trying to find a mystery gift?
We're trying to find an abandoned house we can go check out. Huh? I know, that's my one fear.
Like if
Snakes.
the stairs fall or something.
Right. I'll let you go first and test them out. Never. No, do you think there's some ropes in those trees you can swing on?
Papers on the tree.
Some old vines? You see any vines hanging down anywhere? No? That would be kind of fun. Did I miss it? There was a monkey in the tree? Oh, we're going to have to tell him to back up. I haven't seen a monkey in a long time.
His eyes is better than ours, huh?
Except for you. You're the monkey.
703, you are clear, 38.4.
What is that?
Someone in the rear locomotive informing the engineer.
I seen a lion back there, but she was playing with your soldier. She was standing up on a mountain and he was roaring. You didn't see it? You saw a parrot too? I'm missing all the good stuff.
I was riding a locomotive one day, and we had a kamikaze squirrel.
What is that? Is that one that flies?
No. He insisted on running along the rail, not running the train.
Oh my goodness. That would be something to see.
After about 100 yards, he decided he wasn't going to win that race. And left it along the street.
Oh, is there a lot
Yeah.
of cows? Oh, wow. Ooh, there are a lot back there. That's a lot of milk right there.
Interesting,
See, we'll get to see that coming out.
in terms of weight or number of head. cattle. Do you know what state east of the Mississippi produces the most beef?
Can't say I do.
Kentucky.
Really?
I thought it was Kroger.
Kroger.
Yeah, right. Kroger just cuts it so your wife can cook it.
Yeah. What is it, baby? What are you looking at?
I can eat it.
I missed it again. I have to pay attention. Ooh, did you see that great big spider web up in that tree? Big. Think there's some poison ivy out there? You don't think so?
Poison ivy, dead on it. pen on it,
Yeah, yeah.
it's there.
Yeah.
I see some baby,
Baby ducks, there was some baby ducks in that pond where those cows were running. You didn't see them? Look at that old broken down truck, Niles. Yeah, it's been a few years since that one's been running. We went under the highway.
Bluegrass Parkway.
What was it?
Yeah? Yeah. Big dog.
See Howlin' at the train? There was another big spider web. Did you see that?
Okay, this is what I'm taking now. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not gonna move my head. Tell me what you find.
Okay.
How many trees do you think are out there? Ooh, look at that big open space. You could build a fort in there now. Could be. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm supposed to be looking, okay.
You wrote many airplanes in
There's another pond over there. There's a lot of ponds out there. A long time ago. They just got up and moved.
Oh, you did?
Now, do you want a snack?
That was weird, but
Yes, ma'am.
I need a yogurt.
I didn't hear that. Lettuce.
You want both?
No.
Which one? Yogurt?
Yeah.
Leather. Do y'all like water?
I don't.
Actually, I want a pretzel stick.
You like pretzel stick?
Oh, look, there's a red one.
Oh, look at all that water. Oh, you think there's some big fish in there?
Oh, yeah. Hey, that's safe. Look like,
You want one now?
How we gonna take a mask off?
another one. There's two of those things.
What was it?
They're like, so they're like this and then, so they get to eat it and it smells like something yellow. It's not, I don't know what's safe.
You want a cheese stick? You want yogurt or a cheese stick? I did see it. You want yogurt or a cheese stick? Grandma has a hard time opening these. Cece, we open them for What else did you want? Yogurt.
Look.
Okay, I'm looking. Whether y'all want.
Yeah, clear the code, 1103.
Here's Dad one of them.
You want some more pen? I don't want one.
You must be coming to another. What was that? Was that the furnace on one?
They saw the like thing were like so straight. I just want more though.
What we've got out this side of the train is a combination of wetlands and wildlife refuge.
Oh, is that why the red signs were in there? No trespassing?
Yep. Which I'm beginning to wonder about the wisdom of naming it that. The only wildlife I have ever seen out there was a mixed flock of American egrets, which is a tall whitebird, and great blue herons. And the other wildlife I saw out there were 3 fish and game wardens.
You know, deer down here?
I've yet to see deer here in the refuge.
I've seen deer, but I didn't see deer.
You've seen deer out there?
I saw an elk one time.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. That's about 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years
All
ago.
those branches you could be
But they're
climbing
there,
up.
they just stay with the train, I guess.
Yeah. I've seen scads of deer and wild turkey all along the track.
Oh, yeah.
That would be interesting.
Not much out here.
Niles, look at the way that tree branches. Look at that. See how it goes out and then it goes up. Can you see that one over there? What are we doing? That one? Doesn't that look odd?
Yeah, that's because it lies within the right of way. And
It's just kind of neat how it came up and then like, straight up.
Going north, 4 cars.
Look, it looks like a snake over the top of it. You need a drink, baby? There's some swinging vines. See those up there?
3 cars.
Be like Tarzan.
Now 3.
Look at all those railroad ties right there, Niles. Look at that.
those are old ties that we have pulled out of the track.
Ooh, look at that little drop off right there. Must be where water comes out. See right there?
One car.
Oops, we passed him.
I saved that. It's not say that.
It says to stay out of the woods.
Well, we see it.
You saw him?
What was it?
And this one is good, 1103.
We did not have enough engine crew people today.
Are we turning around now?
Well, more or less.
They got them.
Okay, I'm on 12537.
There's a bunch of dead leaves.
Okay, what's happening is we are switching crews to the locomotive on the other end. They will check the airlines to make sure that we have brakes and they're working.
1103 is cut out.
You know what I'm seeing?
Maybe I don't have it under your
The north end locomotive has just been cut out.
And 2546 is cut in.
like that.
The other one is cut in and we will do a check.
And your release here.
You want an Oreo instead? Okay, with these.
You can-
Give me a setup, please. Setup coming your way.
You want to share this one?
Shake your booty.
What's that?
Oh, is it okay if I set my camera over there for the way back?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm showing a setup at 1103.
I mean, you're so crowded today that... No, no. We just switched control from one end to the other.
So we need to change.
Oh, if you want to see this side,
Yeah.
then go ahead.
Guys, we're gonna go to this side so we can see, okay?
Yeah, we'll go right back over there.
Okay.
Coming over here.
Moving west.
You okay? Yeah, just some water on it. Hold on. You all right, Dad? It's wobbly, be careful when you do that.
Probably the one good thing
We're
about,
done, somebody, we gotta go back and get him.
What did he say?
You gotta watch out for me, I'm never serious.
one of the few good things about having to maintain distance and all that,
Yes.
is that we're only filling our coaches to 50%, which means we're so crowded that if you want to change seats,
Oh, it makes it a lot more complicated, doesn't it?
oh yeah.
Yeah. This is good. Look, Mom, we got some new stuff to look at.
That can't be that good.
She loves those things. Skinny one?
Is that like a jelly or gummy or what?
Oh, I'm
The Kentucky Railway Museum was incorporated in Louisville in 1954. It is one of the oldest railway museums in the U.S. The museum is a private, nonprofit educational institution designated the official railway museum of the Commonwealth of Kentucky. In the early 1950s, the local chapter of the National Railway Historical Society asked the Louisville and Nashville Railroad for the donation of a steam locomotive to form the nucleus of a railway museum. The museum was officially chartered in 1954, and with the donation of steam locomotive number 152, leased 6 acres of land on River Road in Louisville, Kentucky, and opened to the public in 1958. The museum grew with the addition of other donated rail equipment and artifacts. Because the original site was subject to flooding, the museum required additional space for exhibits. The museum moved to property near Ormsby Village on LaGrange Road, also in Louisville, Kentucky. Meanwhile, a group of dedicated museum volunteers with grant funding from the Brown Foundation and the National Park Service began restoring L&N number 152. The 13-year labor of love came to life in September 1985 when the engine was moved under its own power. All the restoration work was performed in an outdoor shop, totally by volunteers, and stood as one of the best examples of a preserved operating steam locomotive in the country. The museum was forced to look for a new home when their current lease was not renewed. No such site existed in Louisville, but CSX Transportation was considering abandonment of the Lebanon branch. With support from the Bingham Foundation and a state grant, the museum purchased 17 miles of track just east of Boston to New Hope. Two brothers in New Haven, Kentucky donated 6 acres of land. The permanent facilities were opened in 1990. Since then, the museum has grown and prospered. A 5,000 square foot depot building serving as a replica of the brick L&N New Haven depot opened in the summer of 1995. The Kentucky Railway Museum is a not-for-profit organization that continues to tell the story of the people who built the railroad through interpretation and operation of the historic train equipment. Virtually every aspect of the museum's activities is performed by volunteers, with the exception of the office and ticket staff. Since the museum is primarily a volunteer organization, we are always in search of new members to help preserve the legacy of the past. If you are interested in adding your name to our list of volunteers, please see someone on the train or one of our friendly staff associates in the ticket office. We would welcome your participation either as an active member or as a financial partner. Don't forget to stop in the gift store and purchase that unique souvenir as a memory of your day at the Kentucky Railway Museum. We hope to see you again on a future ride. Special events throughout the year at the Kentucky Railway Museum include our annual train show and sale, train robberies, Day Out with Thomas, luncheon trains, mystery trains, Pumpkin Patch Express, and our ever popular Christmas trains. As a reminder, as you are traveling home today, a freight train weighs 12 million pounds and takes approximately 1 mile to stop. You cannot beat a train at a crossing without endangering yourself, the train crew, and the lives of your loved ones. Along with Operation Lifesaver, we want you to continue to enjoy trains and travels and be safe. Please remember, just because you approach a railroad crossing and do not see a train, that is not an indication that one is not around. We hope you enjoyed your ride today, and on behalf of all the staff and volunteers, we thank you for riding with us. Have a great day!
what, like corn? Like, what, the green pepper? No, it's
Yeah. Think that it has anything on it you can eat.
They don't feel cold. They don't feel cold.
that would be one of the things that six
Do you think it grows anything to eat? You have anything good on there?
Yeah, in there. Like right over there, but you miss all of it.
Ooh, that tree all falling over. It kind of looks like something. What was that?
Oh, look at that.
Ooh, that had a lot of muscles on it.
It looked like a bug. Kind of like,
Looks like it had arms.
yeah, see, like with these things in the mouth.
Yeah.
Can I do it for you?
Have you seen anyone else?
This is monkey.
Sheila, this was mine, not only do I smoke it out, but
It's a long train horn, you hear it? Moving back there, aren't they? It's a tiny house. Ooh, that horse, can you see the horse in the trees? See him back there? Oh, there he is, really good. Look how pretty he is. Think the Indians live there?
So like the Indians found my house, they just like,
Oh, look at that, that's right there. Wow.
they say like inside,
That's pretty neat.
also like
Look at all that mess.
like the Indians went in, so they saw some people, but now it's dead, so we don't eat it.
The Indians are dead.
No, I mean the people.
All the people are dead. He's giving me a history lesson.
I don't know if this has been problem.
Yeah, they're probably still taking care of it. They're in the old people's house. I want one. Stacy, I want one. We're hungry over here. We gotta get some lunch. Thank you. Mom, look at those pretty roses, Sharon. Aren't those pretty, those roses, Sharon's? What? Never mind, missed it. Go, I said, aren't those pretty?
Yeah, I seen them on the way back home.
I haven't seen them.
Sometimes like hang a rope on the tree and then so they just hang a wheel and then
They were swinging on the wheel.
That's pretty land.
I just saw like a chair. I just saw another chair that would like swing and then it's like
That looks or sounds relaxing.
that sounds like a swing like a railroad swing.
I'll say it. Like we look down the hill. stopped. It's like another crossroad. It's like another crossroad.
Trying to get conservative about those things.
There goes the cow, Sam running again. They said they don't like the train. They were running because they don't like the train, he said. There was a Christmas tree. Yeah, what was
Oh boy, I got somebody else falling asleep.
Very relaxing, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah.
How do you go far?
I think I'd do great if I had a train where I had a sleeping car.
Right up here in a moment,
Yes,
have him watch the red barn.
the red barn. Okay. All right, we're looking for a red barn now.
Not this one, but the next one.
For a red barn.
Still Rudolph in the barn.
Oh, no.
But when we get to the red barn, we'll be at the North Pole.
Oh, okay. Did you know we're gonna be at the North Pole? You know who lives at the North Pole? The elf on the shelf?
Okay,
Is it that red barn over there?
nope, this is right here.
Alright. We're at the North Pole.
Look up on the roof.
I bet the elf on the shelf is in there sleeping. We should have took a picture of that, shouldn't we? Yes?
With our nighttime Christmas lights, that guy and the two fellas across the road put out the light display.
I bet that's nice. Yeah.
Several 100,000 volts.
Oh, wow. So you can only see it from the train? like,
No, State Route 52 runs right down. You don't want to drive it at a time.
oh yeah.
Some people will slow down and they'll stop without warning.
Oh yeah, that's not good. Yeah, I
On the
see
train?
they do the December one.
We'll take you up there, we'll stop the train and turn all the lights out.
Oh, nice. We'll have to remember that.
And then after you ooh and ah and dog a little bit, you come back, Santa gets on the train right there at the barn.
Oh, cute. That would be fun.
Oh,
I missed it again. Was it another monkey? Oh, man. I'm still looking for the parrot.
well, which side is better?
I think that's all it's
I don't know. I like to look at them.
They just have one out
People
there.
live. Both sides are pretty. I bet this is pretty with his leader all them colors. Yeah. When I was in grade school, we had a train ride out of Lincoln Junction.
How am I missing everything? You got good eyes. I need bigger eyes, right?
So when we got done, when we get to start back your dinner, train rides and all that stuff.
Not this year.
Not this year. This has been bad year for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Elsie.
Don't touch
Water.
it.
Ooh, did you see any fish in there?
We just crossed the bridge.
Don't jump, it's beautiful country.
Yes, sir.
Our dinner trains have,
They have
over the last
claws.
several years, they have sold out.
I know the one out of Orange Town's probably not running either.
Are they like turtles?
I don't know.
That's what when she called, I thought it was there. And I said, are they running? She said, no, Mom, this one. They're going to this one.
Yeah, the one in Bardstown
Are you
is
talking about animals?
a dinner excursion.
I mean, I don't like to tell Bill and him or to do that, but he never did do it.
Are there animals? I mean, a turtle
Earl
that
worked
goes
for
slow.
L&L in Louisville, Kentucky. He would give us free tickets. We and Sheila, my sister, out for North Alabama. And we took the plane way back, and then we got our son, to Nashville, on the train to come back. So, yeah, we probably,
Well, even if you didn't have any business in Nashville, ride the train down, get off, walk around the station, get back on
that's what he did.
northbound.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Lovely way to spend the day.
Would you after her son, because he didn't know that we came, Sheila's been on one before, so we went from Alabama to Louisville, we rode the train.
I rode a train home from Florida.
You rode the train up from Florida?
Yeah.
Now,
Remember? I was 16 and I got in a lot of trouble when I got home.
the guy who is getting stationed in Washington, is that your husband or your son?
My son,
Okay. There was, I think it's still in existence, a York, Virginia, right outside D.C.
okay.
to Sanford, Florida, Orlando area.
Take a train.
Auto train. Put your car on the train, then you put, when you leave the car and order to put it on the train. Then you get on, approach your Pullman car with your car, whatever ticket you buy. Well, and you wake up the next morning sometime, pick up your car in Florida, and you're
Wow.
set to go.
That's interesting. My daughter-in-law, about 4 years ago, her husband, they started out west somewhere, but they did a 9-day excursion all through, like, the Grand Canyon and
Yeah.
It looked really interesting.
Sounds
Yeah.
like they got the Amtrak package.
It was a wedding gift from her husband's parents.
Wow.
Yeah. But it looked like a really pretty trip. But she said the cars and, you know, the sleeping, what do you call it?
Compartments, sleeper compartments.
She said they were very comfortable and they had, you know, said it was neat. For 9 days they were on there. They went all out west.
Amtrak did have, and I don't know if they still do, you can buy a pass for a given number of days. You present the pass, get your ticket, say from Indianapolis to Chicago, and then Chicago to Spokane, or Seattle. Go to Seattle, wander around, see the sights, go back, present your pass, go from Seattle down the coast to LA or San Francisco. I'll say San Francisco, spend a day in San Francisco, go to Chinatown, Fisherman's Wharf, things like that. Go back, present your pass, come down, across Grand Canyon route.
That'd be a really nice trip, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and if you get a 30-day pass, you can go anywhere you want on Amtrak. Or that period. What you do is present your pass and get your tickets.
That's great. We've talked about looking into something like that when my husband retires. Good fun. Baby, we're gonna get some lunch soon.
We went on one out of Branson, we went out on one of Branson, down in Branson. And it was like one part of it was like
We had like a touristy railroad.
stand up in. And they had the robbery thing, and then when I had to turn around, it was in this little village with all kinds of really big shops and stuff. That was really nice.
Oh, that was so many tourist excursion
You
railroads.
just don't think about a train, or I don't, when you're starting to travel. I don't think about a train, but I think it would be neat.
You know, tomorrow, you know, that's what you were stuck around.
Yeah. Plus, I like the fact that you're not stuck in a car. You have the ability to move up, you know.
I enjoy it, see the world.
Because after about 4 hours in a car, I'm ready to get out. I'm not a good passenger.
Well, we bought, 4 or 5 years ago, we acquired L&M Plum Bar. L&M had 3 of them, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Alabama. We got them We want to restore it and put it on our Saturday trucks. The Plum Bar basically had 2 ends. One end you could take in, the other end you couldn't. The end that you couldn't take in, you had a wet wall.
Okay.
But it was a lounge car. You go get a drink, sit down, play games.
A nice mimosa. Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah.
Trying to clean up my mess, I'm sorry. Thank you.
What I was going to do before you did such a good job was go back and get the trash can.
Are you putting your trash back in the cooler, babe? Thank you.
But we would like to get that lounge car back up and functioning.
That would be nice. Would it just be like a little excursion, kind of like this type thing?
Mm-hmm.
Be a fun date night or something? Yeah.
Hang on.
Are you having fun? Yeah?
I won't stop here because he was neat.
Yeah.
For once.
Thank you. Of course, you need to hurry and eat that baby tasty jacket. Oh,
You want me to
throw
put this
that
in
away?
now?
You would have came home because the crying wouldn't stop. Super attached to those little guys.
I had enough of crying when I was in the other coach. And probably a year or two younger than this one. I was one of our little friction point little boys. And I started showing how it worked.
You wasn't gonna have it.
No. He threw a fit.
These are so great to take anywhere. They're really lovely. My other little granddaughter, she's great, but she has her moments. These are pretty easy. I guess being raised military.
A couple of grains of peanut barbital work wonders with kids.
You did? Traced it again. Mom, Niles told me he's seen a koala bear. When I turn my head, I need bigger eyes.
Koala bear?
Isn't that what you said? Oh, but he told me I needed bigger eyes.
Well, she said she's seen a gopher, but I never seen
I had a nurse friend one time who was married to a doctor. Well, you get a guy and a girl together and married, what happens next? Baby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What happens to your baby? They get older and they start to teeth. And there's a little bundles of terror.
I had all 4 of them spend the night the other night. It's been a long time. I was wiped out.
Oh. Little one was teething and could not be consoled.
Yeah, those are miserable nights and days.
Dad looked and he said, 1 grain of peanut barbital. Just 1 grain, okay, just half a grain. And Mom was having enough.
A little shot of whiskey might not hurt.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, all good things must come to an end.
Aww.
We are about to pull into the New Haven yard. They will unload.
TRM 2546 southbound, entering North New Haven Yard.
Just entered the yard. They'll unload this coach first and then this one second. So, just wait for my instructions. You will exit that direction until you come to the ramp, get off. And thank you for riding with us.
Thank you.
And if you don't understand thank you, pick another language. I can only say thank you in 12.
Tell them your language. How do you say thank you?
Gracias.
They're bilingual. Their mother is from Panama, so when they're with Mom, they speak
Gracias.
Spanish.
Yeah, gracias.
They speak full-blown Spanish. I tell them they're not allowed to when they're with me because they might be talking about me and I don't know it.
I wouldn't understand it anyway.
Yeah. Say thank you for the ride. No, say in Spanish. Thank you for the ride.
Gracias por el ride.
De nada.
There you go.
My older granddaughter just checked into college this week. Of course, she's got to have a foreign language,
You
right?
ever speak English at home?
She wanted German in high school, and her school wasn't teaching. So guess what she signed up for in
Did you give
college?
us stuff?
French?
German.
Oh, German. Wow, that's probably hard.
No.
No, it's not.
That would be easy.
Oh, is it? Okay. She's getting ready to take some French.
You've heard the term Anglo-Saxon, right? Anglo is English, Saxon is from Saxony and Germany. And both of our language American. French, English, and German. This is Latin and Greek, and
I just know my English. And a little.
she spent some time with us this summer.
Uh-huh.
I had German. What she wanted to know was, she wanted to learn German so she and I could speak it, and people wouldn't know what they were talking, what we were talking about.
That's what they do, and I'm like, hold on, what do y'all
So,
say? Cece, tell him this was fun, have a great day in Spanish.
Esto estaba divertido
Half a Coke.
muchas gracias, señorita. I had Spanish in high school, German and Greek in college. My wife was secondary education as a French major. My mother-in-law was 100% pure Italian. There aren't many restaurants around, but you couldn't lay a menu in front of me and I could pick out something I wanted to eat.